Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a continuation of my video series on following the doc, and I did the first one and we showed how to use Expo Router, which is where we are, but we're going to do it manually. And so now what we're going to do is, this is the default where they're suggesting that you use this template, which uses the latest SDK, and it uses Expo Router, but it defaults to tabs, and it's also in TypeScript. So I'm going to show kind of how to just follow along with the documentation and create a basic tabs application in JavaScript that you can then do with whatever you want. So I have the link below to the first video in the series, and check that out if you're interested in just a regular stack navigator. But let's get to creating a tabs application, and we're going to do Expo 49 and Expo Router 2, SDK 49 and Expo Router version 2. So let's get to it. So first off, here in our terminal, we need to add a command to kind of create our basic application. And so what that is we're going to do a combination. So this is the command here, npx create expo app latest. We're using the blank template SDK 49. Oh, I did that wrong. It's SDK. It's probably why it failed. SDK -49, and then our app. Our app is tabs Expo Router. Okay, here we go. And now it's installing, and then the next thing we're going to have to do is kind of copy all of this to get the extra things that we need to make it work. So let's copy that and get ready while this is installing. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do here, because remember we're following the doc, is we've copied this next set of additional dependencies. So let's copy them. Let's cd into, what is our tabs, Expo Router, and let's paste that in and get the install. Notice here how it says it's installing SDK 49 compatible native modules using npm. Let's do one other thing now. Let's do Expo Doctor to make sure everything's good. And I think this is, yeah, this has been changed, so my bad. Should be npx Expo Doctor. It's checking everything, and all right, everything looks good. All right, so now let's open this up in Visual Studio Code. All right, let's make this, we'll deal with this deprecation and some other stuff later. Let's get our screen to be a little bit bigger so that we can see everything. Let's close this, let's close this. We're gonna follow along the documentation for as long as we can, so let's kind of move this over here to the side. So you can see here, so we've done a create Expo app, we've installed the extra things. Now we need to, 49 above, we need to go into our package JSON and update the entry point. I think it might have been set, but let's see. So package JSON, find main, oh, in the lock file, my bad. Okay, so this needs to be changed. So it's gonna have a new entry point. Sure, this is big enough. Let's just make this just one more size bigger. All right. All right, then next is, we're not going to do web, so we just need to add the scheme here. We're going to copy the scheme, and we're going to go to our app config, or app JSON, my bad. And underneath, right under here, we'll just put our scheme, and then we'll change our scheme to kind of match our name a little bit. So let's put this in here. Just say tabs Expo Router as our scheme. Let's save that, and let's update our config, our Babel config. Let's go in here and add this new plugin. Let's come in here. Our new plugin's added. We're not below, so we don't need to do any of this. And then now we're off to, first let's run, wait, it's not going to run because it's going to look for the index as our entry point. So let's just hop over to creating Expo router with pages. I already covered all this in my first video. We covered navigation in my first video. And now we're talking about shared elements. And we want to get to nested navigator, shared routes, tab navigation, right? So let's see what they have for the documentation on tab navigation. So let's go. So it just kind of jumps right into hiding a tab and dynamic routes and a bunch of other things here. And we're just really trying to create a basic 2-tab app. So this is where I kind of went through it one by one and figured out an easy, well, I won't say easy, but an approach to getting it to work. So let's start back with our new entry point. We don't need this anymore. We're going to have a new entry point called index. So let's just, I think I can just rename this. So let's rename this to index.js. That's 1. 2, you notice everything is now in an app directory. So let's go up here to the top, create a new directory called app, move my index.js into my app. All right, let's see if we can get this running. npm run iOS. All right. Okay, and so now we have our basic application up, but we're trying to build a tabs app. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a group, and a group is basically when you see a folder with the brackets, with the parentheses around it. And so let's go create one of those. It's just, we're going to group it to group all the tabs inside of that. So we're going to create the folder. We're going to say tabs, enter, and then inside of my tabs folder, we need a layout. And in the layout, similar to how we used the layout in the previous video, we're going to use the layout to kind of describe the tab component. So we say layout.js, and now we have our layouts. And then inside of our layout, we need to kind of create our tabs. So what we're going to do is we're going to import tabs from Expo router. And then now we're just going to say export function, and then we're going to call this, we want this to be default, so let's say export the function, and then here we're going to say, something to make sense. So let's say tabs layout. And then inside of this layout, we're going to return the tabs component. And so in here, we're going to say tabs, right? And we're going to set our screen options, and our option is we're going to say header shown is false. HEADER, header shown false. And then down here, we're going to describe our tabs. And we're just going to do one at a time first so that we can kind of talk through it. So what's going to happen in here is we need to have our tab screens, right? So a tab screen. And we're going to call our initial screen, we're going to name it home. And then we have some options that we need on the screen also. So options. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a tab bar label, and we're going to set that to, notice the capital HOME, because that's the label that we want for the tab bar. And then we're going to set a title for a page. Title, we'll set that to home. Okay, and then let's end this, and let's format this and see what we get. All right, so now we have the layout for our tabs. And so it's going to be, our first tab screen has a name called home, so we need that. But what we're going to do is we're going to create another folder inside of tabs now, called home. And that is the home that's going to be associated to this name home here. And then inside of home, we need to do two things. We need to create a default file, kind of like an index, kind of like on a website when you go to a directory, you could put a file in there called index, and that's the file that will be rendered when you hit that directory. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a file called index.js. And inside of index.js, we're just going to keep it simple. So for now, we'll just go to our original page here, and let's just copy all of this. And we'll go to our index.js, and we'll drop this in. And what we'll say here is, we'll just give it a name. Index of home page tab, of home tab, right? So just kind of going back, and then just kind of going back to how we got here. So remember we created our layout, and our layout, we have one tab, home. And so this name home references this home directory, and then in this home directory, the default file is index.js. So this is the content that will be rendered. But since we're in this folder, home, we need another layout file, right? So let's create our layout file, and this will be the layout for the home tab that we're creating. Let's go up here, and let's say layout, and create that file. And it's going to be pretty straightforward. We just need to import stack, because we're going to have a stack navigator from Expo router. And then let's give this a name that kind of makes sense. And so we'll say export default function, and we're going to call this home layout. And then all home layout's going to do is just return stack. All right. So it's going to display a stack, and then all of the files inside this home directory will be rendered in this stack. So this index should be rendered in this stack. But notice how we're still just seeing this index page, and so we need to fix that problem. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our index page, and right now it's doing a whole bunch of stuff. But all we really need our index page to do is redirect us to our tabs. And then our tabs layout will take over, and then based on that layout, our home index route will be called, and then the layout for that home folder will take over, and then it will render the index page inside of that layout. So let's kind of clean this up. And all we need to do here is we're going to redirect. So we're going to redirect. We can use href here. And let's close this redirect out. And then inside of this href, we're going to tell it to go to our tabs group and then go to the home route. And let's call this, and we'll leave that as index. All right, let's see. And as you can see here, we are now in our home tab. We have the index of our home tab, and then we have this title here at the top. So let's now add another tab. And we're going to just do it real simple. Like, we are just going to, first, we're going to go into our tabs group, and then in the layout there, we're going to say we need another tab. So we're going to copy this tab screen, paste, and we're going to call this settings. And then we're going to say the label is settings, and then the title is settings. So now we need to follow the same pattern we did for this tab screen where we created the folder. So we're just going to copy the home folder. We're going to rename this settings. And you can see now we have our two tabs. But let's show that it's really working by going into our settings, and our layout can stay the same, but let's just rename it. And then we have our settings layout set, and then the next thing we need to do, let's go in our settings file, and this is index of settings tab. So now you can see our tabs are working. I'm going from my home tab to my settings tab, and everything's happy. All right, now let's fix these titles up at the top here. And what we could do is we could just go right up here at the top. And I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to create a fragment to wrap the whole thing because we want the styles for the page to still work. But right up in here, we can say stack. What we're going to do is we're going to set some options on the screen right here inside of this file, stack.screen. And let's kind of close it out. And then what we want to do is let's set some options. And in here, we're going to say header shown is true. And so where am I? I'm in settings. Header shown is true. And then we're also going to set our title. So now we have our title set up there on the top. And let's just copy this and do the exact same thing. Let's save that settings. Let's save that settings. And let's go to our home index and wrap the fragment and set the title information and switch this to home. All right, property stack does not exist. I did not import it, so let's import it. And so now we're on our home and our settings, our pages are changing exactly like we want them to. We have our tabs. We did everything manually, and it looks like we're moving along here. All right, but now let's show our Stack Navigator at work inside of our home tab. And so what we'll do here is we will just create a link. So we're going to create a link, and we're going to say go to detail page. All right, and then we're going to use another component that we get from React Router called link. I just said React Router, I'm in Expo Router. And we're going to wrap a link around this text field that I just created. And link needs an href, so we're going to say href. And then we are going to set the href to be to a new page, and we need to be specific here, so I'm going to say home. And then inside the home directory, we're going to create a new page, and we're going to call it this detail page. So this link will now take us to the detail page. All right, so now let's create our detail page, and we're going to put it inside of this home folder. And what are we going to base it off of? Let's just copy this index page. Not that index. We'll copy. Yeah, we'll copy our index page and just kind of rename it because it has the basic stuff we want. So let's copy, paste, and we need, since this is file-based, we need to copy the file name exactly. And so let's rename this new file. And it's going to be called the detail page. And so now, if I click on go to detail page, I'm navigating in, so now I'm in my nested stack. So I have the tabs, and then I have a navigation stack inside of my home tab that I just navigated into. Let me kind of change the names of this so it actually makes more sense. So now let's go into our detail page. We don't need this. And this is the detail page of the home tab. Put a little bit of style on here, font size 24. All right, so that's the detail page of the home tab. Let's kind of get this over. Let's go back to our index. All right, so we can go home, index, go to detail page. This is the detail page. We still switch to our settings tab. Just for completeness, let's just show the exact same thing inside of the settings detail. So let's just copy this. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do something different. Let's, inside the settings page, let's show the dynamic. So let's show how you can create a dynamic route in here, similar to how we did in the first one. So let's go here. We'll copy this page because we just need something to start with. we'll go in here and we're going to rename this to setting type. Close that out. So now we have this new route called setting type in our settings page, and then let's go. So this is the settings page of, no, this is the detail page of settings. And so let's get that name change. Let's go back to home and let's see if we get the home. No, we didn't change that. So let's go up inside the detail page. Home, we'll just keep it simple. Home, details. So we're renaming our home settings. So we now we have, our home detail. So now we have home detail. Home, so we know that we're on the different page. Let's go to our settings. And then we're going to do kind of the same thing on our settings, except we're going to use the dynamic link. So let's kind of go to our settings. This is the detail page for settings, and then also on here, we're going to get the parameter, right? So we need the parameter from the page. And let's just add some style, margin, top 8. And this is, in here is where we're going to put the parameter that gets passed to us from the previous page. So let's open this up a bit so I can make sure I'm doing this right. And let's add the links in our setting. We're done with our home stack, so let's close out all our home stack stuff. We're in our settings, all right. And so then what we want to do is inside of here we want to create some links to kind of take us to the new settings page that we're going to add this nested inside of here. So let's get our styles right on our pages. So let's copy that and go to our settings index. And then remember we want some links, so let's go back up here and let's copy this link. And let's go to our settings index. We're going to have two different, and so what we're going to say here is let's go to account settings, ETCO account settings, and then we're going to create another one down here called go to network settings. And then we are going to change this to settings, and then we're going to pass the value in that we want to be the setting type. And so in here, let's use the string interpolation. So let's change this. And then what we'll do is we'll just put some, actually I don't even need to do string interpolation, so I'm just going to hard code the value in here. So here it's going to be settings. It's going to be network. So let's imagine that this would then show the network settings for the user. And then up here, it would be account. Right? I didn't import link, so let's import link. All right, let's go to my settings page. And you see now my settings page, I have these two buttons there. Let's give this some space. Margin bottom. Move those down a bit. And so now this should take us to the settings page, which is what it's doing, right? The settings details page, and it's passing this search variable. But let's render the search variable on the page so that we know which specific settings we're on when we get to the page. So let's go into settings type, and in here, this is where I want to show the specific parameter that's getting passed in. And I believe we want to say const, and then it's settings type. PE, and then there is use locale search params is what we want to use. It's imported. Now we have settings type right there. Let's format this so we can see what's going on. Actually, let's close this window because we don't really need it. Let's save this, and then now let's see what it. Hopefully this works. Why is it not rendering my settings? Okay. Oh, I spelt it wrong. It is setting type. Actually, let me fix it in the file. No, it should be setting type. Setting type. Setting type. Put this back. Let's save things. All right, and now we're getting our account. And then if I go back to settings and I click on network, then we're getting our details of the network type. So that's what we wanted to do there. And as you can see, we've got a pretty good thing going here with our tab application. We have our 2 tabs set up. We have our home stack. We have our separate stack here for our home. If we go over to settings and we have our settings page, we have a separate stack and with a dynamic link that can pass parameters. And so there we have account. Here we have our network setting, and I think we're going to wrap it here. So I just wanted to keep it straightforward, kind of walk through the approach of creating a 2-tab app from scratch. I hope you found this helpful. The next one I'm going to move on to is I'm going to do the drawer navigation, where a little slider pops out from the side and kind of how you can manage to do that. I hope you found this enjoyable. Please share with your friends, leave comments below, and please make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you, and bye.